Hey guys, and welcome to the status report highlight for the 15th of October 2015. And in this week's status report, lead producer Brian Hicks will be addressing topics such as audio, design, and will be revealing a bit of upcoming map and world changes. Also, there will be a bit of insight on what the status is on the road going towards 059 on Experimental Branch. We're going to be trying a few new things with the status reports from now on, from here till release. First off, we're going to go ahead and move status reports to a 2-week schedule. The reason behind this is mostly due to the nature of major tasks at hand. We're all working on large-scale tasks that impact the game as a whole. The other change I'd like to make is that status reports is to change the tone to a more casual and informal tone. Rather than typing up the report as if we're discussing a press release, Hicks would like to try discussing DayZ and ongoing changes from the perspective of one DayZ player to another. Before we get into the cool things we'd like to share with you this week, I'll get a few of these areas that are still in progress and not ready to be shown. Renderer. As of this report, the engine team is focused on post-processes and making sure that we have visual parity, making sure the visual quality is at least the same as the original renderer. Once that is done, they'll be focusing on optimizations and multi-threading. This will require a good amount of QA time before it hits experimental. But as we've said before, we need to have a visible improvement on performance when it hits experimental. Infected. We're going to be spawning infected again at strong quantities in 059, as the gameplay programming team has been working hard on making sure we can have a smooth 75 player experience, which is looking really good, guys. Hicks is pumped. However, internally we're going over some strong suggestions and ideas on how to maximize the concentration and spawning of infected across Chernogorsk. Hicks doesn't want to speak too much on this until we have a concrete plan on how we want to handle this. Hopefully the next status report will be able to cover exactly what the plan is in more detail. Needless to say, if everything works out, Hicks is pretty pumped about it. Nasty 058 bugs. Things like ground swimming, known duplication methods, farming of the Quonset hut barracks, and such are earmarked as critical gameplay fixes for 059. They might not all be resolved in the first 059 experimental push, but they are top priority for the move to stable. First up this status report, I thought you guys would like a brief peek at some of the audio changes coming up. Now, while I mentioned a few status reports back that the ambience is being reworked entirely and will be significantly quieter than the originals, I don't have anything ready to show you on that right now. One of the things Hicks is excited about gameplay-wise related to that is the volume balance changes. With different shoe boot types hopefully having different sound profiles, gunshots themselves will also inherently be much louder in comparison with the rest of the world. In the video shown, we've put together some of the changes to weapon sounds. Sure, it's not the new ambience, but Hicks is personally excited about any movements towards making each weapon have a unique audio signature, so when we're all sneaking through the dense urban environment or sprinting across the wilds of Chernogorsk, we can identify what weapon is being fired by audio alone. Some tweaks will more than likely happen before these sounds are finalized, but we wanted you guys to hear how they are sounding right now. In this clip we're looking at something that got Hicks really excited, and the other week he sat down with lead designer Peter and Honzo, one of the senior designers, to check out some of the things we're working on, as they get access to the larger changes we've been waiting for quite a while on. Hicks spoke to Break71 the other week about how they thought how silly the whole idea of being locked into an animation when performing an action was. In the video shown on screen now, senior designer Honza is triggering the action of eating by holding a specific assigned button. When he releases that button, he stops eating. The amount of rice consumed is calculated based upon the duration of time he was eating the rice. And voila, we see a massive change in how the user interacts with the world. This particular action could save you a lot of time and fumbling while eating rice and trying to reach for that cancel action button if you see another player approaching. Next up, we have a work in progress view and how we're working on vehicle and vehicle parts damage being assigned, and the visual representation of it. Hicks has put a video together that's on screen now, and the behavior in the video is purely for test purposes. While we're happy with how each part has its own hit point value and can be damaged or destroyed, the behavior of the part falling off the vehicle works for some, but not necessarily for all. We spent some time discussing how the behavior should operate today. Personally, while I love each part being able to be damaged individually from the parent vehicle, and that change being visual to the players as they attack the vehicle, Hicks would much rather have the part be non-usable when destroyed, such as a door that is destroyed being jammed and not openable without an action, or a tool being used to force it open. This, however, could easily lead to a situation where a character is stuck inside a damaged vehicle without a method of escape that looks visually acceptable, like smashing the window and being teleported out of the vehicle when climbing out of it. The design team will be going over the best method for handling the functionality of the damaged vehicle components over the course of the next week or so. Higgs would like to talk about that some more in the next status report. On the world design side, Senshi has been working pretty tirelessly on the long-awaited renovation and update to Chernogorsk. The major coastal cities for quite some time hadn't really been touched that much since we hit early access, and their age compared to the outstanding work the world team had done up north was really visible. Now, these are all still moderately early. Senshi and his team still need to replace the original Chernogorsk ground textures and finish up the structures, but we thought you guys would like to see how it was going. Chernogorsk is a key city for Chernobyl, and it's very critical we keep the stylized skyline and key points of interest intact. That said, there is a lot of room for improvement, and Higgs is confident Senshi and his team will knock it out of the park when Chernogorsk is done. 059 Experimental hasn't hit yet, as you all know, and Higgs got a good deal of questions about when it is coming. As Higgs hates to give a solid date in case something comes up in test, I'll give you guys a quick insight on what the blockers are from it hitting Experimental. Vehicle sync. This is huge for 059, as we're introducing new vehicles and increasing the vehicle quantity. It just flat out has hard work better than previous builds. We have had some nasty bugs come up while working on this, and it's held back the experimental push. That said, the programming team is making some commits tomorrow, and our fingers are crossed that QA signs off on the improvement. Dynamic events. As the gameplay programming team works on randomization of vehicle and parts state while spawning, as well as potentially randomizing potential weapon attachments on spawning, we've run into a few bugs that cause issues spawning dynamic events, as the tech behind them is shared. Obviously, we need to have this resolved, but it's not a major blocker for experimental at least, but definitely stable. Memory consumption. We've isolated a memory handle leak issue that has caused some crashes we want to get resolved before hitting experimental. I'm sure you all can understand the motivation there. The gameplay programming team is hard at work knocking this one out. Ground swimming and duplication. More gameplay blockers than anything. We're all as frustrated with these issues on 058 as you are, so obviously we've earmarked these as absolute must fixes. They aren't necessarily preventing an experimental push, but as we're working on the other blockers, they are top priority as well. Lastly, for this status report, I know a lot of you have been wanting to see the Q3 2015 roadmap analysis, and we'll be covering that as well as some changes to devhub.dayz.com in the future that will give you guys more insight on exactly where we are with the required features and content for 1.0 at PAX Australia at the end of the month. The talk should be live streamed at PAX, folks, and in case any issues come up, we'll be recording the audio off board and we'll present it post-event just like the RTX Q1 and Q2 roadmap analysis was done. Higgs hopes he didn't ramble too much in this status report, but as we're getting closer to our goal of beta, end of this year, beginning of the next, there are a lot of large changes coming to the tech behind DayZ, and these tasks take more time than modifications to the old tech and systems. Questions, suggestions? Make sure to head over to the official DayZ forums and join the status report discussion thread for this week. And that's all, guys, for the status report highlight for the 15th of October 2015. All links are in the description, as well as for DayZ TV for your latest DayZ news and information. Remember to hit that like button as it helps the channel a lot, and I'll see you peeps next time.